Hello, my name is Sergio Marin, and today we are going to review how we can use Pantacor technologies to create a Tailscale network gateway with a Raspberry Pi 3. Basically, what we want to do is take this network. This is my home network. There is more devices inside, obviously, but these are the important ones. I have a server with Plex and Samba that allowed me to share all my pictures, videos, and software I download through the whole network. And for that, basically, I consume everything with my laptop. In here is the name is PC1, and I have this Raspberry Pi 3 in the network with those are the IP address of the devices, and the idea is to use the Raspberry Pi 3 as a gateway to other devices outside the network from internet, be able to connect using Tailscale to the device, and then through that device connect to all the other devices inside the network, and not only one laptop, any other amount of devices that I can have outside the network. My cell phone will work, the tablet will work, everything that has a client for Tailscale, basically, that is available for Linux, Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and everything else. In order to do this, we will need to install PBR CLI in the computer that will be using for development and the whole configuration. Create a hub account, set up the Raspberry Pi with an image of the Pantavisor. That image is going to be inside a SD card. Then create an account on Tailscale, create an API token for the devices that are going to be connected to Tailscale, and install and configure Tailscale using Pantavisor. After that, we are going to be able to connect the whole home network through any device outside my home network using Tailscale and the Raspberry Pi as gateway for that network. Now, in order to create a Tailscale account, we are going to go to tailscale.com. Tailscale is a provider of VPNs using WireGuard, and you don't have to configure that much. If you have Tailscale in your cell phone, you only go to connect with your account, and you are going to be connected to the inside the network. Same for Linux, Windows, or whatever. They have clients for everything, but this is an example, and you will see all the devices available on your network, their IP address, and basically what they want to provide is a way to solve this without that many gateways. You can have Tailscale, and all the devices that are connected to Tailscale are in the same network because they are in the same account. But maybe you have a couple of devices that are too old or something like that, and they cannot have installed Tailscale, and that's what I am doing now, because I don't want to install Tailscale on all my devices, and I will set up the Raspberry Pi as a gateway to my whole network here. And for that, let's create an account. I will create an account with my GitHub. Now I have here my account with my GitHub username and everything, and you can see that they start to say, well, you can installing all these clients, but we are going to pass over this instruction, and what we need is to create an API token that is going to be used by the device in order to connect. Those keys are here in settings, keys, and you have these authentication keys that are for authenticate machines without going through your login. I will generate one that is reusable because I want to use it for later on for more than one device. And I will click in generate. It's a very long key and I need to save it, and done. Now let's go and start the configuration process on the device. For that process, I'm going to need this clone URL, and using PBR, I will say PBR clone, get the whole URL of the device, kinda as git clone, and I will set up a name for this like Tailscale device 1. It's going to ask me for my login information. Because that device is only mine, it's not public, therefore I need to be authenticated and authorized to download all the parts of the device. This is going to download the same file structure that we can see on the website, and will allow us to do all kind of PBR actions, as add a new app called Tailscale. Now that is completely downloaded, I'm going to enter to the folder and start Visual Studio Code to see the whole structure. Yeah, it's the same as we saw on the website, with the same containers that are going to are running on the PBR device logs, and I can see the logs of the device that we just saw that is in the connected to hub. All these logs are inside the cloud. Yeah. And well, in order to start a new application, we are going to do PBR. Let me put this bigger. PBR app at front, and this is the source from where the application is going to be built. We can use any a Docker container, I don't know, like Nginx, and it's going to download the Nginx container, and it's going to convert it to a Pantavisor format. But I want to install the Tailscale version that I had on Gitlab. It's basically a container that reads the user meta information, the Tailscale enable true false, in order to start or stop the process for Tailscale. And that is in this container registry. I can go and set up the tag that I want to download, that is the master, because this is the master branch on GitLab, and the name of the application that is going to be Tailscale. This is going to connect to my registry, search for the Linux ARM version of the container, download all the layers, same way that Docker does. It's going to extract all that, and then it's going to create the configuration here. We have the source, that is the registry that I just mentioned, and all the Docker configuration that is needed for this container to run. Yeah? We have like some volumes in there for the Tailscale library, basically, and everything is in here. Describe it, but everything is auto managed by PBR, and because we are starting with this, we don't want to go that deep for now. After that, I can do PBR add, same way that git add, PBR commit, to add those changes to the PBR revision, and then we can do a PBR post, that is like git push, but for us it's post, and the message for the revision. And in here I'm going to put install Tailscale container without any configuration. This is pushing the container to the cloud, and let me go to the hub account, and we are going to see here that a new revision is going to pop up. We are in the revision 0 here. Everywhere says 0 when this is finished. Now we have in here the new revision. As you can see, is queue for the load, but we already here see the new component called Tailscale with the version that is downloaded. Here is the full SHA information and the run level of that application. If we go to files, we are going to see same files that we have in local, basically. Now it's going to download that image. Okay, now this is finished. The release is updated. That means we can go and do access SSH to the Tailscale compot, and I don't know, I don't remember. User binary, yeah, and we can see here the Tailscale client that basically is reading from these two files. This is a representation of the configuration here. If I put in here Tailscale enable true, yeah, I have there the file with the true value that is used for this client to start, and The other thing used for that client is the this configuration file that basically is a JSON with a bunch of key here, like the key that is the authentication key, the host name, and the configuration for the Tailscale client. Tailscale help. Tailscale have a bunch of configuration for the when it starts. Those are basically all of them. And we can set up basically all of them via a JSON file. I could go and create the file in here, like file is this one. I can go and create this file, but that is not going to be a long-term solution, because after I restart the device, that file is going to be gone. Like any other container, if it's not a volume, anything you put in there is going to disappear after a restart. Therefore, what I'm going to do is create that configuration via PBR. PBR, we have a feature here where we can create a folder named config, and then create folders by platform. I will create a Tailscale folder, and then I can overload any device inside the root system of that container, and I will basically create the same the same structure with the config file inside, and I will create the config file with the same information that we will need to run the configuration with. Yeah, for me, the only one that is crucial is a key. I can set up a host name and then a bunch of tags in there basically, but let's start with the key. And the key is the one that I saved before from Tailscale, and I will set up a host name. Like that. Tailscale Raspberry Pi 3 device and the config. Anything else is going to be false basically, and it's going to set up to the default configuration. But something important here is that if we want this to be a gateway, it needs to advertise the routes, the routes inside the network. Therefore, that any other device outside connected to the Tailscale can enter to the my local network. Yeah, and for that we are going to use the advertise route thing, and I will set up here my local network, that is this one, to be advertised. Yeah. I think I can put the asset routes through. If any other device has root, had any advertised route from another device. I kind of set that, therefore I will be able to talk to that network too. If we want the DNS configuration from Tailscale that they had in here, like they can allow you to create a DNS and set up name servers and local host names and everything. I won't be using that, therefore I won't active that. And what other thing we have in here that could be useful? I think there is nothing else here that could be useful now. Yeah, nothing in there is important. Now that I have this set up and ready, I'm going to do a PBR add, PBR commit with those new files that are the configuration one, and set up that. Okay, configuration files for Tailscale. Now we are going to push a new revision to the device, and this time is a lot smaller. And now you can see that there is a new revision here. Everything is the same Tailscale, same everything. The only difference now is that we have the configuration folder with the configuration inside. And with this done, we should see after this downloaded finish that is very small design, because it's only a JSON file. The only difference, the device is transitioning to the new revision without rebooting. Let's wait a second. It's starting again the container. He stopped the Tailscale container, starting it again. We should be able to see here the Tailscale logs. When the container started. Now here is starting, Tailscale starting. It created the WireGuard interface. Is using the authentication token that I put in the configuration, and the device should appear here. Yep. Now we are in the latest version of Tailscale, and we can disable the expiration key if we want. That way that key is going to last forever. If not, it's going to try to update it. And we can see the route settings where that device has a subnet route exposing it, but we need to activate it, like, and that will say that this device is going to expose all the devices, or allowed to connect to the devices inside that network from another device that has Tailscale. And now I can connect to Tailscale and see now the configuration is okay. But now that everything's work, well, at least the Raspberry Pi is connected to the network, I need another device to see if everything works. Now, in order to test everything, I will install Tailscale in my computer with the installation script that they have. Is the fastest way to do it. They need super users, and now my device is connected here, and I should be able to see Tailscale status. Yeah. And now we have two devices, my computer and the Raspberry Pi 3, but my computer right now is in the same network. How can I change that? Well, I will use my cell phone hotspot to be in a new network with a new internet provider, something like what will happen if I am in a, I don't know, co-work in a cafe or whatever, and I continue connected to the Tailscale network, and I am no longer able to go directly to my server. One thing important there is that when you do the Tailscale up, you need to activate the feature to accept the routes from another Tailscale node. If not, by default you cannot connect to anything. Therefore, I will turn down the connection and put it up again, but with the accept routes configuration. Now we should be able to do directly pin to the server and do SSH directly with that IP address, and we should be able to see here the connections passing through from the Tailscale API to the local area network in here. And with that, I think we are ready for the first part, where we are able to connect to our Raspberry Pi and the network behind the Raspberry Pi from outside the network, as we saw in this image. Basically, this is what we did now again, and well, it's working. We have the devices in here, the subnets available, everything working as it should. Now in a new endeavor, I want to add a little bit more upon this and how we can deploy a fleet of Raspberry Pis, I don't know, through my friends and whatever, in order to use the same image, the same API token from Tailscale and everything, to have a connected network with all the devices at the same time, with only one deploy for all of them. And that will be with another tool from Pantacor called Pantacor Fleet. But that's for another video. Bye.